Hello, thinkers. I'm your host, Josh, and joining me, as always, is my lovely wife, Mallory.
What's up?
All right, cool. Cool guy. So, today, I'm going to once again go into the Philosophy 101 book by Paul Kleinman, and we're going to talk about the Sorites Paradox, which was made
Never
by...
heard of it.
Yeah, I gotta, look up this dude's name, because it's Eubulides of Miletus, I think.
Interesting.
Is that how...
10 points to anybody who can tell us if we're
pronounce
right
it
or
correctly.
wrong.
So basically what this is, there's two different ones. Like the initial example talks about heaps and things like that. I thought that was confusing.
What are heaps?
So it's like a pile of things.
Oh, okay.
But they have another example where it's like bald. So anyone bald out there, there's nothing wrong with you.
Looking at
Being
you,
bald
Matt
is great.
Ludwig.
I love you. So there's nothing wrong with that. But basically the paradox is this. So if you have one hair on your head, you're considered bald, correct?
I mean, I would say that.
Yeah. And then so if you had two hairs on your head, you'd be bald.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then but eventually if you, let's say you have 100,000 hairs on your head, you wouldn't be bald at that point, right?
I would assume not.
'Cause,
Isn't that a lot?
That's a lot. I don't know how many hairs are on some person's head. Probably not 100,000. But if you know, leave that in the comment. I'd love to know. But so basically the question is, at what point are you no longer bald?
Oh.
And at what point are you bald? Like, so, because you could continue to go, like, is it, like, for easier math, let's say 500 locks of hair is...
Like strands of hair?
Yeah, is what full-headed hair is. And then...
That still doesn't seem like a lot to me, though.
Right, but this is just for easier math.
Okay, I get it.
And so, if you go... At what point would it be like 250? And it's like if you have 250, half of that, you're bald.
So you're saying, like, what's the threshold of
what's
bald versus not?
Yeah, exactly. And so there's all kinds of different like theories that philosophers, and apparently this one's like one of the most popular ones that philosophers talk about.
And it's about bald versus hair?
Well, you can use it for other things, but one of the biggest problems with this is language, because like we don't have a name for the in-between. Like, you could say they're balding.
Okay.
And then when I say that, when I say that, what do you think?
They're losing their hair.
But they don't have, like,
but
a glossy
don't have
dome.
No glossy dome?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
A mirror for a,
yeah.
for a head.
So, like, when I think of balding, but even then, it's like, because my dad, he has, like, hair on the side of his head.
Yeah.
On the top, there's maybe, like, one or two that are sticking out.
Yeah.
But, like, he would be considered bald.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have...
And I think it has to do with, like, society standards, too.
Right. But then when we compare that to your dad, I would say just your dad had less hair than...
Your dad.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
they're both bald.
But what about that as a choice? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I think my dad would have hair...
If he didn't shave it.
If he didn't shave it, but only, like, in a ring. You know what I'm saying?
Like my dad.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, they're bald, but by choice.
Right. So at, like, what point would you say, like, should we have a part where, as for my dad's, where it's just a ring, it's like, okay, they're not bald, they still have hair. So we'll call that...
Halvesies.
Oh, man.
I don't know.
Well, I don't even know what you would call someone with hair. Because bald you only get if you're bald.
A woolly mammoth.
What?
I'm just kidding. I don't know. That's just what...
I mean, I guess. But, like, you know what I'm saying? So, I guess for...
Hairy mammoth.
Hairy?
I don't know.
Hair inclined?
Hair inclined? Okay. Yeah.
No, wait. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hair inclined.
Yeah.
And so then you would call... Sorry if we're offending anybody out
there's
there
nothing
with
wrong
us. If you're bald, let
good.
it go. Yeah.
You look great.
Do it. I guess... And then, yeah.
Because and then like there's like a patch, like if you had just the little like patchy, would that work or like? Nah, probably not. I don't like that word.
I think you would just call it balding.
Okay.
But like, are you talking about like if there's just like random patches of hair?
Okay, yeah, and that would be like another descriptor, I guess. But then, so basically, there's like 4 common like
levels
of what they think is the answer to this. So there's one where it's like they just refute. It's like, oh, you can't do this because there's not enough language, or like I said. And there's
Okay.
one that's
So that level is basically saying there is no, like, it's impossible to find the threshold?
Yeah, like, we just can't
due to
do
language?
it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think. And then there's another one where it's kind of in between, like, part of it is correct, but then part of it's not, and it just depends on your...
Preference?
Yeah, like,
because bald to me might be different to, you know,
someone else, yeah, like we talked
someone
about
might
earlier.
see someone, yeah, like with a little bit of hair and be like, they're not bald because technically they do have hair.
Right.
Whereas to me, I'm like, if I see the top of your head, you're bald in my opinion. But
so the third option is like they accept the whole, like, okay, you're bald or you're not bald, but they don't accept the answer in a sense, if that makes sense. So, like, they don't accept that there's this,
like, threshold. Like,
yeah,
it's not.
yeah.
So basically that level, they're saying, yes, there's bald, and then there's people with hair, but the threshold doesn't exist. It's just one or the other. So basically, like, it's black and white, right? Am I
think so. That may be more of the
correctly?
fourth one, because there's that one where it's like, yes, everything is right, and then just based on you just don't know that missing variable, basically. Mm-hmm. And so the most popular one is that second one where it's like, okay,
kind of yes, kind of no.
Yeah, it's the one where it's like part of it is right. What else
could we apply it to?
Yeah, and the whole idea of how, because this language thing appears a lot in this book towards the end. Like, language mm-hmm. is this huge barrier of what we can confirm to be real and what it's not, I guess. And so it gets you to that point where, okay, so let's take it in the sense of, I'll just use, like, think of a trait that I have.
Like, just any random trait?
Sure, yeah.
You put me on the spot, and I'm afraid of choosing the wrong one.
There's no right or wrong.
Oh, you make me feel like there is. I don't know what to do.
Just pick something.
You pick a trait.
Okay, I would say I'm a creative person.
Okay, there we go. I like that one. That's what I was going to choose.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. And so, at what point am I, like, what's that line?
Oh,
it's like,
creative
okay, what
versus
makes you,
not?
yeah, what makes someone not creative? You know, because when I really think about it, I don't think anyone's not creative. There may be people who are creative in different outlets.
Creative inclined.
Creative inclined, yes.
Oh.
But, so, and then that point, it's like, should we use a different word then? So, like, me, and maybe that's why we have
What's the
titles.
opposite of creative?
Destructive? Would that be? But even then, that could be creative. It's like, ooh, look how they destroyed that, and it made art.
See
you know?
what I'm thinking of, and I'm looking for the word to describe it, but the opposite of creative in what we're talking about, creative in your situation, is you're always looking for new ideas and to expand on new ideas and to create things and whatever.
Yeah.
So I think probably the opposite of that, which maybe you can help me find the correct word for that.
Okay.
Is someone who doesn't seek out, like, different ways of doing things, and, like, doesn't seek out,
Like, I can't see.
like,
I can't
doesn't
think
have
of
an
a word.
imagination.
Okay. So more serious. But
Yeah.
even then, like, I would say I'm a serious person. And that goes back down to that.
Yeah, but you wear your hat backwards.
What are you trying to say? All right. We're going to start a war here.
No, I like it when you
What
wear your
is
hat
the
backwards.
more appropriate way to wear a hat? Backwards or forwards? Or sideways for you?
See, I wore my hat backwards in QT this weekend, and I felt like people thought I was, like, bad. I don't know why. I don't know why.
I guess just because you have negative
connotations
towards...
about a if you wear your hat backwards, like, no judgment here.
I wear my hat backwards. So.
Yeah, Josh wears his hat backwards all the time. I don't
I
even
like
know
it
why
better.
we're
I
talking
think
about
it looks better on me backwards. There's some hats that I think, oh, well, okay, I don't mind.
Well, you
this.
definitely do it when you need a haircut.
Yeah, it helps keep the
anyway,
hair on my
okay,
face.
let's get back on track.
Yeah.
Okay, so serious, but serious people can also be creative.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, what's the threshold
And then it's like, do you make certain words for that? So, like, when I think of my creativity, how I manifest that, it tends to be in writing. Like, drawing, I'm okay. I'm not very great. Painting, I'm terrible.
I've never seen you paint.
Oh, I'm not good at painting. That's why I don't paint. All right, you got it.
Okay.
And then, like, making new things, I would say, like, ideas, I'm okay at. But as far as, like,
a lot of ideas.
Actually creating them, I'm not so good at. It takes me a long time. But so in that sense, it's like, okay, well then, if I'm talking to myself in the third person.
If you're thinking of it like a spectrum.
Yeah.
Where you have like creative and non-creative.
Okay, yeah.
Like, what is the threshold where one becomes the other?
Where you're creative, yeah.
You know,
and I think that also goes down to that part of like what society says and then what you say.
Yeah.
Because there's some things where you agree with, and it goes back to the identity.
Yeah. Also, I think it depends on, like, if you were comparing two people, they both might have creative tendencies,
right.
But one might just be, like,
okay.
super creative. So, in that situation, one, you would say that's not, like, that person isn't creative because compared to the other person who's wildly creative.
Right.
Or it could be whatever trait you're
Yeah.
looking at. So, I think it's situational, too.
And then I like what you're saying about compare. Let's do that. So, take me, a very novice level writer / I guess creator, and then compare me to someone who's just, let's say Stephen King, who's above and beyond his genre
He's also
writing.
A weirdy.
I mean,
don't turn on like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping not to.
Okay.
But no judgment, Stephen King. If you happen to read this, I like your work, and I doubt you'll ever hear this, but good stuff. But anyway, so. If we compare that and the level of creativity, his creativity is just insane. Like, the stuff that he has thought of. Like, if I compare that, and then we had to label one as being creative and one as... I would be the non-creative person compared to that.
Yeah.
Because his is so...
But I think if you were compared to, like, me...
Okay.
Because I'm not as creative as you are.
Do you think in that mindset, yes. But, like, you have this bullet journal that you've been doing. And that's very creative.
Yeah, but that's, like... the max. That's like pushing myself.
Well, and then you do stuff around the house, like as far as like making it look aesthetically pleasing. That's creative as well. Like, you show your creative side, and then when you dress, you have a nice fashion sense. That's creative. So, like, again, though, it's like we take little bits and form this big idea.
So it's like we are both creative, but in different ways.
Yeah.
So you would have to compare two people who manifest their creativity in the same way, right? To truly compare whether they're creative or not. So, like, let's say...
Well, even then you can't, because right there, me comparing myself to Stephen King, like, people would still say that I do have creative tendencies.
Yeah.
But with me just being like, okay, hey, just a yes, no, like ones and zero, as far as, like, computer-wise.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be the 0, he'd be the 1.
Yeah.
And it won't work that way. Because it just can't. Like,
these situations are very, like, black and white. So if you were, like, talking about it that way, it wouldn't be a spectrum. It would be...
levels?
Yes or no.
Yes, yeah, okay.
There's no maybe to it.
Yeah. And maybe the levels... And that's one of the things that it talked about in the book, too, where there's, like, sharpening. So... as like that's basically another word for balding. So there's that spectrum, and I think levels works well. And I'm trying to think of how we could possibly make that work in a sense of like, we could take me as a novice writer, find one a little bit more successful, and keep going up until you find, and then each level name that level, and in that sense, I think.
But we don't have the language to do that, so...
Right. And there's also that argument...
Or I guess we do have the language to do that, but nobody's ever done it.
Right, but then there's also that argument of that's confining a certain form into a thing that I don't think can be confined that small. And then you can constantly continue to go smaller. There's another paradox that I saw in a TED talk. I can't remember now for the life of me what it's called. It's going to drive me crazy. But basically... it's this philosopher who decided that, he left from, I guess, some place with columns. It's back in the Greek days, to his home or something, and he decided, okay, well, from here to here's the halfway point, and then from that point to this point is half of that half, and it would continue to go infinitely.
Okay.
So if we try to do that more, like I said, where we had a level all the way up, well, who's to say there's not another level in between the two levels that we just did? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's what you're doing, and then that would be an infinite.
Yeah.
And you just can't do that. And it's like, at that point, is that a limitation on language, or is that a limitation on our comprehension of time and space and just general life? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think anything, language is man-made, right?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware. Yeah, I don't think something
I'm
came
just saying, like, I feel like anything man-made, people are going to argue.
Yeah, I mean, but that's one of those things, too. Like, animals have a language between each other.
That's true.
And we don't even understand how that works. Like, we don't understand if they, like, bellow barking.
Mm-hmm.
To us, it's kind of like, there's a quieter bark, and there's, like, but to the dog, it's like some language is like, oh, okay, I know exactly what that's saying.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm not sure. I guess it's back down to that identifying mark, I guess, like an identifier.
Yeah.
And but again, like, you can only do so much of that before you just can't. And it's kind of, that also goes with how us and, like, atoms and stuff. Like, there was a point where we didn't know the microscopic world. We only saw the macroscopic. And we continue to go down, and, like, who's to say there's not something smaller than, I don't know what the smallest molecule is. I apologize. If it's, I think there's something smaller than an atom. I can't remember now, but maybe not. I think that is the smallest that we know. But who knows? Maybe there is something smaller. We just don't have the technology to see it. You know what I'm saying? And then that makes me also think, in a sense, like, if you take it like weird microscopic to the Earth in a sense, and then, like, the galaxy, and then it just gets. And, like, what little life... Anyway, that's a whole other topic we could talk about.
All I know is the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
The American education system has done wonders.
That's it.
That is correct.
All I know.
That's all I remember, too. But, yeah, so that's... Like, I mainly wanted to talk about it just because I thought it was such an interesting concept.
So, like, going back... Because, I don't know, I think what interests me is... The most about it is that it's based off of situations, I feel like, mostly. Because if going back to the, the paradox of, bald versus hair inclined or whatever, if you compared, if you're just talking about it theoretically, it's hard to find an answer of what's bald and what's not. But if you compared two people, let's say, like, one had a full head of hair, one was balding, you would be, like, if you had to choose, you'd be able to tell. Or especially, like, if one was straight up bald, and then one was, had luscious locks, then you could tell very easily. Yeah. So...
That's an interesting thing, too, to think about, because, like, what if... I guess this goes back to the allegory of the cave, but... What if you had never, like, if you were bald and you never saw someone with hair, at that point it's like, well, would you still call yourself bald? Because if you have nothing to compare it to, you have no reason to make a new language for that. Everyone's just true. That's just a common knowledge.
Yeah,
we all are bald. So why even say?
That's interesting. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it again goes back to language.
Yeah. But I like the comparative side. Like, you cannot create a language for something without having something to compare.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I guess, no, like, you'd have to at some point. Like, you'd have to, like, let's say if you were in a room with nothing in it.
Light and dark.
Yeah, like, you
wouldn't
have
be able to like, if you lived in the dark, you wouldn't know what the light was. I guess.
Right,
like,
you wouldn't have a reason to even
raised.
But I'm not even born, I guess, but how little we would have language-wise if we didn't have these things to compare, in a sense. Like, and I guess that kind of goes off my mind is, like, taking English and comparing it, because I'm trying to learn German. I'm not doing a very good job, and I keep falling off the ball because I have other things I'm doing, but it's super interesting to see how it's like, oh, okay, we agree that this form of letters, even though they're different, like, let's say, like, Kartoffel, that's potato.
I knew you were going to say that. That's your
That's
favorite.
my favorite.
I know.
I call Bella our dog. Mine Kartoffel. But, like, it is just weird to me. They're spelled completely different, but we've somehow agreed that, okay, both of these letters or symbols represent
The potato.
the potato.
The great potato.
That's right, yeah. And it just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Everything kind of blows my mind. If you really think about anything, it's like,
Yeah.
wow, how does that work?
I will say, I had never thought this deeply until I married you.
Yeah.
And then it was like, wow, I really thought only surface level.
Oh, don't say
first.
things like that. No, you thought of important things and, mind-bending things, but
I talk mostly in movie quotes.
there's nothing wrong with that. I love talking movie quotes. It's the best. Which is, we were talking about the other day with Michael Scott. He's in Dante's Inferno. Spoiler for Dante's Inferno. He's at the end, but it just blew my mind.
Yeah.
But that's a complete bunny trail, and we're running out of time here, so I think it's a good moment to wrap things up. Thank you for listening in, taking time out of your day. I know it can be hard to, and sometimes I'm hoping we're entertaining you guys. If you have any suggestions on what we should talk about next, what we should do with the podcast or the channel itself, leave a comment, reach out to us. Also, like, share, and all that stuff. It really helps out. Like right now, we're seeing like all the data about it. I'm like, golly, I want this to keep going and make something of this. And
hit us up if you want to hop on and do a
it'd
podcast
be cool to
with
have
us.
other people. Yeah, because sometimes
it's fun.
Yeah. So and until next. Oh yeah, I hope you have a great week. We'll talk to you next week. Will be a little different. We have some stuff going on in our lives that we'll have to. It'll be
Just
more
vacation,
fun. Vacation. I didn't want
Josh,
to make it.
You're making it sound
things.
like there's something
We're
terrible
spies.
happening.
But so it'll be fun. It'll be more of like a would you rather kind of thing, and then we'll be back to this style probably the week after. But till then, have a good week. Thanks again for listening, and never stop pondering. See ya.
Bye.